Accessible ramps are how we provide access to different parts of our site, all right, to people of all abilities. And this is really common for example, a level change into a building, but it can also be in various locations of your site, especially if you've got any kind of slope. Where do we need to provide them? You need a ramp anytime you have a level change more than half an inch. All right, so that's important. And if you have an accessible route with a running slope, so a walkway, a pathway, etc., of steeper than 5%, you've got to treat it as a ramp. So let's take a look at the different parts of this ramp. All right, we'll generally have a low side over here and a high side of wherever we're going over here. And this is the main ramp piece, and it has a slope of 1 in 12 maximum. Your accessible ramp is required to have a level landing at the top and the bottom. All right, and it must be at least 36 inches wide, and that's clear, especially between the handrails. Right? You're required to provide handrails if the rise of your ramp is greater than 6 inches. That's why those curb ramps didn't have handrails, because their rise was less than 6 inches. Right? Talking about rise, right here, there is a 30-inch maximum rise for each run of your ramp. And when you combine that 30-inch maximum rise with a 1 in 12 maximum slope, that turns out that you are limited to a 30-foot long ramp. All right, so when you're drawing them on your site plan, it's very easy to mark out 30-foot long ramps. All right, and that's your maximum length. Take a look again at the landings. All right, they're required at both the top and bottom of each run, of each segment of ramp, right? And they've got to be at least as wide as the ramp itself, right? You can go wider, and we'll see that in a second, right? But it's got to be at least as wide, and they have to be 60 inches long, all right, in the direction of travel. Anywhere where your ramp is changing direction, all right, and that can be kind of a 90-degree turn like we have here, or it actually can be any change of degree, anything other than just a straight run. All right, and suddenly you have a new requirement. It's got to be at least 60 inches in both directions. All right, so that can look like a 60-inch wide ramp like we have here. All right, and so you just have kind of a square landing. Or if you have a more narrow ramp, like a 36-inch was your minimum, right? When you need to turn the corner, your landing has to be bigger. Take a look. A really common accessible ramp design is kind of this switchback back and forth. All right, so let's take a look at that. It looks something like this in 3 dimensions, and you'll have a top landing. Remember, this has to be 60 inches long, and that your ramp has to be at least 36 inches wide inside the handrails. And then you have your ramp run, all right, so it's going down in this direction. And that's going to be a maximum length of 30 feet at a slope in 1 in 12. All right, here is your level landing, and it's at least 60 inches deep because we're making a direction change. We're kind of making a U-turn. All right, and notice that you're required to provide a little gap here. I mean, you can fill it in if you want this to make a solid handrail or something, but you have to have this at least 12 inches right here. All right, and as we keep going, you might have another ramp run. All right, we're going down. It's 1 in 12. And finally, we'll have the bottom landing. Now, this is dashed because that might just be your sidewalk or your level pavement, but it has to be a level area, at least the width of your ramp in that direction and 60 inches long in the direction of travel. Handrails, if you've got any kind of rise greater than 6 inches, all right, you need to provide handrails on both sides. They have to be continuous and unobstructed. all of the ADA requirements for accessible ramps are pretty tricky. They're very specific. All right, so keep this in mind and always go back to those code sections that will help you hit the exact requirements.